Go Gators. I know that this is taking a little bit of getting used to in this remote environment, but hopefully by now we're all kind of old pros and we'll be able to enjoy this morning, even though it's not exactly like we anticipated. My hope is we only have to utter the words, "You're on mute," like 6 or 7 times, and that'll be considered a big win for this Zoom meeting. My name is Matt Hodge. I'm the executive director of the UF Alumni Association and graduated in 1994. So my Grand Guard date is a little ways away, but I certainly share with each of you the love of the University of Florida and a distinct honor to welcome you back, regardless of kind of how we do it. We're Gators and we're looking forward to celebrating you today. I hope each of you and your families are staying safe and healthy in these unprecedented times. As I indicated, obviously this year is not ideal. I'm excited to welcome each of you to our reunion activity celebrating the class of 1970. Adrian texted me and said, Matt, were you even born in 1970? And just barely. I was born in 1971, Adrian. But we want to celebrate each of you today. Over the past 2 months, I hope you've been able to attend at least one Grand Guard session to learn about the exciting activity taking place. One, to connect with one another, hopefully, but also learn about all that's going on with our faculty, our students, and the campus that we so love. As we celebrate UF's current accomplishments, we know that that would not be possible without the success and dedication from students like yourself who laid the
Hit that
foundation.
and see what it does.
When you hear from leadership and students today, I hope you take pride in knowing that each of you has helped us reach the goals and the place, set the foundation for where we're at today. We're extremely proud to call you alumni and look forward to celebrating you today and in the year to come. At this time, I'd like to introduce the MC for this breakfast. He's a fellow Grand Garter, a member and chair of several Grand Guard committees, past president of several colleges, and an invaluable member of your UF Alumni Association Board of Directors. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Larry Tyree. Larry?
Thank you, Matt. Good morning, Gators. As Matt mentioned, my name is Larry Tyree, and I'm a fellow Grand Guard Society inductee, and I had the privilege of chairing the class of 1966 Grand Guard Committee just a few years ago. During the last several months, I've also had the privilege and honor of serving alongside other Grand Garders or soon to be Grand Garders as a part of the task force that has helped make all of these activities possible over the last few months. Before we begin the program, I would ask you to join me in applauding our veterans and our active service women and men for all that they have done and that they continue to do to serve and protect our country. I'd also invite you to join me to observe a moment of silence in memory of those classmates and spouses who are no longer with us. Thank you. It's now time to kick off our program by introducing the task force chair, Dr. Adrian Garcia, to provide a welcome to her fellow class of 1970 classmates. A word or two about Adrian. She's a triple Gator. She has a master's, a specialist, and a doctor's degree from the UF College of Education. And close to my heart, she's an educator. She retired from Hillsborough Community College in Tampa and served as executive director of the HCC Foundation for more than a decade. But hear what she has done for the university. She served as president of the Tampa Gator Club and president of UF Alumni Association Board of Directors. She is past president of UF College of Education Alumni Council. She's been on the Gator Boosters Board and presently a member of the UF Foundation National Board. please help me welcome Adrian. Thank you.
The Grand Guard induction is the 50-year anniversary of graduation at the University of Florida. As chair of the planning task force, I welcome the class of 1970 to celebrate this milestone. This year, as you know, our Grand Guard festivities are virtual, and we hope that in 2021 we'll join the class of 70 and 71 to a more traditional way that we can meet in Gainesville on campus and hopefully scheduled around a football game. So wait till next year takes on a new meaning for the Gators. I want to thank the members of the Grand Guard Planning Task Force, comprised of alumni who are proud and grateful for their University of Florida education, and staff who are savvy about what the campus and the college offers today. We've worked together since summer, breaking new ground, creating online programs for this virtual celebration. I want to thank our alumnus, Bill Carr, former UF athletic director and a current sports consultant, Carlos Del Sol, retired engineer formerly with the Campbell Corporation, Delphine Jackson, a retired Gainesville educator, and Dr. Larry Tyree, who has retired as the president of various state colleges in and outside the state of Florida. The staff, I want to thank Paul Casperson, Rachel Dorman, Heather Holcomb, Ryan Marsh, Meredith Palmberg, Missy Poole, Angie Toll, and last but not least, Heather Ashley, who works with the University of Florida Alumni Association. As chair of this task force, I was like the Russian general who said, "Tell me where my troops are going so I can lead them." Well, Heather was the one who told the troops what we needed to do. So I thank all of you for your work. If you haven't been to campus in 50 years or even in 5 years, much has changed. I hope that today's program helps you appreciate the efforts of the students and faculty, the staff and administrators that have made the University of Florida bigger and better than we imagined possible. And you'll learn of the trajectory for the university's future in ways that were unimaginable 50 years ago. Dr. Tyree, let's begin.
Hey, thanks so much, Dr. Garcia. We appreciate your remarks, but we especially appreciate your leadership of our task force over these several past months, as well as all the things that you have done for your alma mater. Bless you. Thank you so much. It really has been great virtually, I should say, and meeting so many of you over the last 2 months. And I certainly look forward to connecting with more of you during future Grand Guard activities. For those of you who are joining our activities for the first time, over the next hour or so, we hope to bring a little piece of Gainesville to your living room or wherever it is you might be watching and participating in our program this morning. And to those of you who registered early for today's event, we hope you're enjoying a nice, there you go, Adrian, a nice cup of Sweetwater coffee and your brand new Grand Guard mug. And I should tell you that both of these items are sourced right here in Gainesville. So my fellow task force members and I are thrilled to join you, the class of 1970, in celebrating the milestone achievement that is your 50th reunion. We're here today to reminisce about your time on campus and the lives that you have led since your graduation. I think probably the greatest understatement I could make is this: the university has changed since you and I were students in Gainesville. But the good news is one thing has not changed and hopefully will never change, and that is, it is great to be a Florida Gator. And even in these times, it's particularly great to be a Florida Gator just now. Our university is in the midst of becoming a global leader, an institution that the state, the nation, and even the world look to for leadership. State-of-the-art academic buildings have been constructed. Resources for both students and faculty have expanded exponentially, and groundbreaking research continues to occur in every corner of the campus as well as in the very middle of it. As we continue our rise to a top 5 university, oh, did we mention that we're hovering at number 6 now as the number 6 best public university in the country? But as we continue our rise to number 5, we are always mindful of those who paved the way before us. Your hard work in the 1960s certainly set the tone for the level of excellence that we expect from Gators today. We hope that all of this year's Grand Guard activities leave you feeling the same sense of pride and loyalty to the Gator Nation that you felt when you were a student at the University of Florida, but perhaps without that gosh awful beanie. Some of you may remember those gosh awful beanies. Question for you, and you can indicate by a show of hand, how many have not been back on the campus in the last 10 years, the last 20 years, the last 30 years? Well, I'll stop at that point. You simply won't believe what it looks like. And we invite you back to campus next year about this time for, God willing, our in-person Grand Guard activities so that you can see it all for yourself. And as I reflect back on our time as students in the 1960s, the university and indeed the world were undergoing some rather significant changes. Some of us were here during the election and even the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. We were here during the civil rights movement, the conflict with the Soviets, including the Bay of Pigs invasion, the Cold War, certainly the military draft, and most particularly the Vietnam War. All of these and more played a significant role in our student experience and in the shaping of our lives subsequently. Excuse me. I would be remiss not to mention another important event during our time here, and that is when Stephen Orr Spurrier became our first Heisman Trophy winner after kicking the winning 40-yard field goal against Auburn on October the 29th, 1966, with just 2 minutes and 12 seconds remaining in the game. In fact, one of our colleagues, Bill Carr, actually snapped the ball that Spurrier kicked, winning that game with his 40-yard field goal. How many of you were here for that game? I was. Bill, you were there. Others, how many attended that game? Well, Steve Spurrier, as our quarterback, was 27 for 40 in passing that evening with 259 yards, and he actually scored a running touchdown in addition to everything else. Well, campus has changed since we first called UF home. I'm delighted that we have added 2 more Heisman Trophy winners. We've expanded our research, again, exponentially. We've increased the student and faculty population. And again, we have moved into the top 10 among all public universities. However, some things simply do not change. Fortunately, UF remains true to its land grant roots and steadfast in its effort to be a national, even an international leader. We definitely should be proud of all that our alma mater has accomplished in the last 50 years. I'm going to pause and ask Heather, is it time? Thank you very much. It's now my distinct honor and privilege to introduce a very, very special Gator. Since joining the University of Florida, President Kent Fox has made it his mission to connect with the Gator Nation, and boy, has he connected. His hard work and his belief in UF's unlimited potential have been major catalysts in this university's ascent to its number 6 standing. So please join me in welcoming a truly remarkable fellow and an exemplary leader, our 12th president, Dr. Kent Fox. Dr. Fox?
Thank you, Dr. Tyree. It is so good to be with you all. The members of the class of 1970, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad to be with you here virtually, but I also look forward, as Larry just said, to the opportunity to getting together when we can do it without masks, and we can do it and giving hugs to one another. Your 50th reunion is an important milestone for you, but also for the university. So it is a privilege, you all. The main message I have for you is just gratitude. Gratitude that I have the privilege, and all of us here at the university today have the privilege of really standing on the shoulders of you and other leaders and members of the class of 1970, all those that have built this university so that we can work here, so that our students can study here, and indeed we can even make what you know as our wonderful university even stronger for those that'll come after us. Now, 2020 has been quite a year for each of us personally, and also the University of Florida. The good news is throughout the pandemic, we've really remained ultra focused on our mission and on our focus of just building the stature of our university and providing a world-class education to students, conducting research that is groundbreaking, that is improving societies and the world, and making a difference through things like our outreach, our extension programs, our clinical opportunities that we provide, just continuing to build excellence as we focus on our mission in the midst of 2020 and all that that means. So while COVID is certainly not over, and we have more of it to experience in the next several months, I'm just so positive about what we've already accomplished, where we are today, and where we're headed over the next several months in this current academic year, the fall of 2020 and the spring of 2021. Much is owed to what has been accomplished through the exceptional resilience and the creativity amongst our community here, our students, our faculty, our staff, our alumni, including all of you. And I know that when you were here as students here at the University of Florida in the late 1960s, there was some similarities between then and what we're experiencing now. You didn't have a pandemic, thank God, like we're having now, but you did have a Vietnam War, and you had other issues that were controversial. There were protests and just things that were causing our campus to evolve and to change. Many of them for the good. And when I look back at those times, some 50 years ago, from the perspective of the present, I'm inspired by so many good things that emerged. Progress for the people of the university, for women, for Black people, for progress that occurred in education, technology, the physical infrastructure, the great faculty and the courses that were taught, the lives that were changed by coming to the university and getting a Florida degree and becoming a Florida Gator. And my greatest aspiration is that 50 years from now, when the Grand Guard gets together, 50 years from now, people will look back and they'll be able to say something similar about 2020. Something similar as we're saying today about all the good things that came out of the years when you all were here at the University of Florida. I know that many of you have had the opportunity to hear from our historian, Carl Van Ness, and his discussions about previous decades, particularly in the 1960s. And I'm not going to try to repeat any of that, but I wanted to just mention a couple of things. The first is indeed how the role of women across our campus has changed. The majority of our deans of our colleges now are women, if you can imagine. And that is a big change from what it would have been when you all were here as students. You may know, even on the other side of the gender, that the first male to enroll in the College of Nursing was in 1968. So we've had growing equality for both men and women over the past 5 decades. The University of Florida broke ground on one of my most favorite parts of our university, and that is what was called at the time the Florida State Museum. That groundbreaking took place February 23rd, 1968. It was actually conducted with a 2,000-year-old Native American spade, a shovel. Today, Dickinson Hall holds our museum's research collections and its public collections are now part of the renamed Florida Museum of Natural History. It's one of the nation's top 3 natural history museums at a university. And the faculty in that are so much involved in the life of our university in teaching and in scholarship. And it contains things like our wonderful butterfly rainforest, which I'm sure many of you have experienced. Also, our Natural History Museum is a signature part of our facilities here on our campus on the southwest corner. The Gator football team signed its first Black players, Leonard George and Willie Jackson, in December 1969 under Coach Ray Graves. A couple of other things I'm sure you know about the Cuban Comet, Carlos Alvarez. He was an amazing player who helped the Gators win a 9-1 record, victory over Tennessee in the Gator Bowl in 1969. And he was a leader here in campus activism. Some of you may have seen a recent production that I watched on ESPN called The All-American Cuban Comet about Alvarez. It was shown on the SEC network by ESCC just a few weeks ago. UF6 President Stephen C. O'Connell was inaugurated October 8, 1968, and he was the first native of Florida and the first UF alumnus to serve as president. We've only had one other UF alumnus president since then, Marshall Chrysler, UF's 8th president. I just got off a Zoom call with his son, Marshall Chrysler III, who's the chancellor of the system. And we're planning our spring semester, and that was the purpose of that call. In the fall of 1969, our enrollment was about 21,000 students. And this year, our enrollment set a new record, topping 57,000. We're not in the role of growing the size of the university. I think 57,000 is large enough. However, we are creating new programs that allow new students to enter, particularly in the online world, which has become a huge asset, as you might imagine, in the midst of COVID. We opened the Wright Student Union, Library West during your time here as students. And since then, though, we've added dozens of major facilities, expanding both on the historic core as well as parts of the campus such as UF Health. Our university, while you would recognize it today, and many of you are here on a regular basis, it also has been transformed physically in terms of new programs and also in just the nature of just the student body is such a vibrant student body, as it was when you were here. In his 1968 inaugural address, President O'Connell vowed that, quote, UF will be the first in the South and second to none in the nation. I love that aspiration. 52 years later, we've climbed, as Larry said, to be amongst the top 10 in public universities, public research universities. And we've got our eyes focused to being second to none. Even President O'Connell, I think, would be really pleased with all the progress that has occurred over the past 5 decades, all across our institution, from the arts to agriculture, to the science, to the humanities, the social sciences, athletics, all of the aspects of this university that we love from 5 decades ago, and some of those aspects are new to the university since then. So again, my message to you all is just a message of gratitude. It is such a blessing for Linda, my wife, and I, and for my wife and I, Linda, and I, to be a part of this wonderful university, to stand on your shoulders, and to be a part of the current student body, the faculty, and the staff as we continue to increase the stature of our university. You all, as Larry said, and as you all said 50 years ago, as we say today, it is great to be a Florida Gator. Thank you all. I look forward to joining you in person as I am here virtually. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. President. We appreciate your taking the time to be a part of the class of 1970s celebration. We also appreciate your unfailing and continued support of the Grand Guard Society. You have been so generous with your time, you and Linda both, and we certainly appreciate it. Thank you, sir. It's
Thank you,
amazing to
Mr.
see the
Hart.
many things that UF has accomplished in the last 5 decades, and we are all excited to see what the future holds, especially under your exemplary leadership. So thank you, sir. And speaking of accomplishments, our next speaker today is a notable figure in Florida athletics and is a fellow member of the Grand Guard Society. He is arguably the best known person in Gainesville, and I would even say the best known person in Gator history. He is one of only 4 members of the College Football Hall of Fame to be inducted as both a player and a coach. He is the only Heisman Trophy winner to coach another Heisman Trophy winner, who happens to be my all-time favorite Gator player, Danny Warfel. And then I've had the privilege of introducing this speaker before, but I've learned some new things about him. He's the winningest coach in school history at 2 Power 5 universities, our alma mater and that other school up north, South Carolina. He's the only person alive to win the ACC football championship. That was in 1989, and 7, count them, 7 SEC championships in 12 years between 1989 and the year 2000. And dear to my heart, as a former high school baseball player who caught Hall of Famer Don Sutton for 10 years, I learned that our next speaker was a fantastic high school baseball player at Science Hill in Johnson City, Tennessee, where he led his high school baseball team to 2 state championships, and his record over 2 years as a pitcher was 14-0. And if he hadn't chosen football as a career, he'd probably be in Cooperstown alongside my buddy Don Sutton as a pitcher. I think, he's also currently our official ambassador and consultant to the University of Florida. And I think he might agree with this statement, and that is his greatest accomplishment by far was marrying his college girlfriend, Jerry Starr. They've been married for over 50 years. They have 4 children and 14 grandchildren. Please help me welcome the head ball coach, Steve Spurrier.
Thank you, Larry. Hope everybody can hear me out there. That might be the best introduction I've had in a long, long time. I always like to start off with the mass just to remind everybody the part we can all do to help fight this virus and hopefully get it out of here as soon as possible. But as we all know, it's a problem that we need to face and do the best we can and follow the science and the doctors and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, it's good to be with all you Gators. 1970. I was just thinking, of course, my last year was 66 as a player. So some of you, if you got here your freshman year of 66 and went on that 5-year plan, like a lot of us did, maybe you were here my senior year at the University of Florida. It was certainly a memorable year. We opened up 7-0 in 66. I think it was the first time in school history, but unfortunately, the Bulldogs beat us in Jacksonville and knocked us out of the SEC championship. And as most of you know, I've sort of spent my 12 years as coach at Florida trying to get even with those Bulldogs. And we got them 11 out of 12 times. They got us once, but we got them 11 times. But anyway, really proud of this year's team. Coach Dan Mullen and the staff, Todd Grantham, the defensive coordinator, Billy Gonzalez, Brian Johnson, 2 offensive guys, are doing a super job. Our football program is in good hands, as is our university in good hands with President Fox and all the people working under him there. But getting back to football, we got a big one this week with Arkansas. We had limited people coming to the game, but it's television. They're all on television now. So hopefully we will maintain that momentum that we got last week against Georgia in Jacksonville. A big win for us, and we needed to beat those guys as we were on a 3-year losing streak. And maybe now we can take off in a really, really good direction as far as our football program. But again, thinking about to all when you people were here, I think most all of you were here during that 69 season. And they had a special on Carlos Alvarez recently on the SEC network that chronicled his career at Florida and so forth. Really interesting. And the bit about he was active when the first African-American players played here. They came in, I think, 70, your year, Willie Jackson and Leonard George, and how Carlos stood up for everybody, equal rights and all kind of things. And certainly Carlos is a super Florida Gator that we all endear and love that guy. But anyway, that 1969, 70 years were good for Florida. I know the 69 year, John Reeves to Alvarez went 9-1-1. At the time, I think it might have been the best record in school history, 9-1-1. We'd had a bunch of 9-2s and so forth, but that 69 year was certainly memorable, and it was almost, we couldn't quite knock the door down. It seemed like they're waiting on me to get a chance to be the coach here in 90 and so forth. And the years that I was here, we had a wonderful group of players. But when people say, Coach, how'd you win 7 SECs in 12 years? I said, we had guys with the attitude. They had the attitude that we can do this thing. We can beat these other guys. And now let's go do it. And really such a wonderful group of players all the way through, from Shane Matthews and then Danny Warfel and Rex Grossman, Jesse Palmer, Doug Johnson, Terry Dean. Quarterbacks are certainly very important on your team. But the overall defensive players were outstanding also. And our running backs with Eric Redd, Fred Taylor, so many other guys were winners. And what was so wonderful about all those players, they didn't care who got the recognition. Our goal was to be successful, win the game, and try to win the championship as we went down the road. We didn't win them every year, but we were in the hunt every year. And that's, I'm just as proud of some of those teams that didn't quite win it as though that did. They gave it their best shot, but sometimes we know, and Larry, you know that football will bounce funny ways. It doesn't always bounce your way. But the guys were out there competing and trying to bring honor and glory to the University of Florida. In closing, just want to say I'm really thankful and appreciative to be back as an ambassador consultant at my alma mater. I go back and I say thank you, Lord, that Ray Graves recruited me out of Johnson City, Tennessee, to come to Gainesville and be a Gator, and the ability to come back and be associated with my school, to have an office over at the athletic department, somewhere to go, something to do every day, and try to promote our university. So again, I know we're doing it virtually this year. Hopefully next year we can get back to the Alumni Hall, Emerson building over there, and have another 50-year reunion. But again, just want to say hello to and congratulations to the 1970 graduating class 50 years ago. It goes fast, as we know, but hopefully we'll see all of you next year. And then hopefully next year we can all get in the swamp and pack it with our 88, 90,000 and so forth. So again, good to be with you, and go Gators.
Hey, Coach, if you add South Carolina to your list of Georgia wins, would it be 16 times that you beat Georgia?
Larry, that is correct. And the record was 15. Shug Jordan of Auburn, the Auburn coach, had won 15. I think he was 15-10 against them. And so with the 11 here and the 5 up at South Carolina, I got one more up on the Georgia Bulldogs. So thanks for mentioning that.
Well, after last weekend, I want to just look you in the face and say, God bless you.
Well, yeah, we started beating those dogs, and we had better players that first year or so. And then all of a sudden, they had a little bit better players the third year and maybe the fourth so-so. But we started mentally, once you get that mental edge on a team and they think, well, something bad's going to happen to us, it helps you continue. So our players, our team, we looked forward to that game instead of, oh no, well, how are we going to lose to Georgia? We'd say, we're looking forward to playing the Bulldogs in Jacksonville there at the old Gator Bowl. So it was important to win those first few, and then we, just sort of mentally, we can beat these guys.
We just want to say thank you for all that you have done for and meant to the University of Florida. We love you, Coach, and thanks so
Well,
much.
thank you, Larry. Nice to be with you all. Thanks.
Big hand for Steve Spurrier. Thank you. Well, it's definitely safe to say that things are different today than they were for us as students 50 years ago. And we are honored today to have somebody to provide us with a glimpse of life at UF today as students see it. And that person is the current student body president, Trevor Pope, who is with us. Trevor graduated from the University of Florida with a double major in both economics and political science, and is currently a second-year law student at the Levin College of Law at the University of Florida. He's serving as president of the student body, where he represents, as President Fox said, some 57,000 students. He's a member of UF's Hall of Fame 2019 inductee class. He's a two-time Wright Scholar, a Florida Blue Key inductee. He was a member of the UF 2019 Homecoming Court, and he's a brother of Pi Kappa Phi. Last year, 2019, he was honored with UF's Outstanding Leader Award. Please join me in welcoming President Trevor Pope. Trevor?
Good morning to the class of 1970. It is so great to be with you all today. For those that I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Trevor Pope. And like that kind introduction mentioned, I currently serve as a student body president here at the University of Florida. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, I was actually born and raised right here in Gainesville, Florida. I lived here all 23 years, and I think that's why I like to say that I bleed orange and blue, and it really leads to my passion and service to the university. But really one of the things I wanted to do today is just give you kind of an inside look about how the student body is currently doing and give you all a little update about what our administration has been up to. So I will briefly share my screen if I have access to do so. All right, awesome. So dating back to February, when I first ran for student body president, our administration promised to do three things. And that's to build for the future, to make UF more accessible and inclusive, and to really improve the student experience. Now that was back in January, February, we made our platform. Think about what has happened since then. Really, COVID has struck, and a lot of things in 2020 has kind of caused our administration to really pivot and double down on our service to students and make sure that our student body and the students, our prospective students, are getting as great of an experience as possible. So really a lot of what we've been focusing on this year is adapting to the virtual landscape. So kind of on that topic of COVID, one of the things that our administration has done this year is create a grant fund for our students to help them pay rent. So if you remember back to April and May, really the economy tanked, really the financial market was in ruins, and a lot of our students were really struggling to pay rent. In fact, here in Gainesville, back during that time, there was actually even a call amongst our students for a rent strike against Gainesville landlords. So as student government leaders, we knew that we needed to step up and act. So one of the things we did was allocate $500,000 to create a rent relief fund. That way students won't be accruing debt for not paying rent, and it'll make sure that we're building for their future. That way they're not adversely impacted by some of the financial difficulties that they've had. In addition to that, we've also provided free vouchers to a lot of our faculty members and staff who are some of those frontline workers that have been working all throughout the virus and really, putting their lives on the line and risking their health. Also, as a means of just kind of flattening the curve and really reducing the spread of COVID-19, we implemented a brand new free delivery Friday service for our students. So now our student body can order food completely free of charge to their home. They don't even have to go out to restaurants, just to make sure that we're proper socially distancing and really all of that good stuff. In addition to a lot of our measures that we've taken that have been COVID related, we also really felt the need as an administration to address some of the social unrest that was occurring in our nation and making sure that our students were having those conversations with one another, and we were really looking inward. So one of the ways that we did that was we actually invited the co-founders of the Black Lives Matter movement to host a really thought-provoking discussion through our Accent Speakers Bureau. In addition to that, we have implemented a relatively new agency called the Bridges Minority Outreach Program as a means of ensuring that we are promoting minority enrollment. There's been a recent trend where as our rankings increase, unfortunately, minority enrollment decreases as a result of that. So us as students want to make sure that we are as appealing and as attractive of an institution to all students as we can possibly be. The last thing I'll mention that I'm really proud of that our administration has worked on is really just doing things to improve the student experience. So some of that includes creating a weekly trivia night for our students to put something on their calendar, have a fun, engaging, safe thing to do with their friends. And kind of on the side of professionalism, we've also implemented a brand new business card printing service, as well as a free resume printing service to make sure that our student body is able to professionally represent themselves to their employers as they go into any interviews that they may have, because at the end of the day, all students are here to really just get jobs. And then the last thing I'll mention, we're really looking forward. So I'm about halfway through my term as student body president, and the work does not stop. So one of the things that we're trying to do is create a parking ticket forgiveness day for our students, because that has been a very recent and relevant issue. And then also just investing in the infrastructure here at the University of Florida to make sure that it's as incredible for students as possible. So whether that be increasing the size of the weight room at the gyms, or creating organization storage spaces, as well as lockers, day use lockers for our students. So really just the general notion of doubling down on the student experience and making sure that we are providing for students, even in light of this virtual landscape, which has been, as many people have categorized as unprecedented and just as weird as possible. Just making sure that we are there for the student body. So with that pretty much concludes our report on what it is that we've been up to. But I want to thank you all so much for your time. Thanks for the invitation. And as always, go Gators.
That's just awesome, Trevor. I have a question for you.
Sure.
Ticket forgiveness thing, could it apply to 50 years ago when Spurrier and I and Bill Carr were in school and had all those tickets?
Yeah, we'll get those expunged and reimbursed and all that good. I like that plan. I'll see what I can do.
Good. That'd be very helpful. I want you to project ahead 49 or 50 years from now, and guess where you're going to be? You're going to be having your own grad guard celebration. You're going to be thinking about what you've done over the last 50 years, and it's going to be a great thing when you reflect on what you've accomplished over the last 50 years. We just wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Well, this morning we have heard about many exciting changes since we roamed Tigert and Murphy and Norman Halls. In fact, some of you may enjoy your jaunt down memory lane so much that you even consider staying or moving to Gainesville permanently. Well, there's good news. There is a nationally recognized continuing care retirement community located right here in Gainesville called Oak Hammock. It's sponsored exclusively by UF and is a proud sponsor of our Grand Guard activities. Well, today we're joined by the CEO and president of Oak Hammock, Troy Kennedy. Troy began his tenure in April of 2020 and comes to Oak Hammock from the Capstone Village, which is a retirement community on the campus of the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa, where he served as the executive director. He has a bachelor's degree in therapeutic recreation with a minor in gerontology from Lake Superior State University. And he also has a master's degree in business administration, an MBA, from Indiana Wesleyan University. Troy has spent more than 25 years working in the senior living industry, specifically in continuing long-term care. He is newly married to his wife, Hannah, and they have a blended family with 12 children. They recently settled in Ocala, where they have a new home. Hopefully it's a big new home. And together they are looking forward to learning more about Oak Hammock and the broader North Central Florida community. Won't you please join me in welcoming Troy Canady. Troy?
Thank you, Larry. And as Larry said, my name is Troy Canady, and I'm the president and CEO at Oak Hammock at the University of Florida. I'm pleased to be joining you all to present Oak Hammock as one of the premier sponsors of the Grand Guard virtual reunion activities this year. Obviously, 2020 has been different than any other year, and I really wish that I would have been able to welcome you all back to campus physically. But it might actually be a bit of a good thing that we kept our distance, as I must admit, I'm still a bit of an Alabama fan. I am new to Oak Hammock, having assumed the CEO position in April. I'm sure you can imagine the wild ride it has been assuming a leadership position of a retirement community during these challenging times of COVID. I relocated to Gainesville from Tuscaloosa, so I do realize the deep-seated traditions of a university with more than 150-year history. I'd like to congratulate all of the Grand Guard inductees who are being recognized this year. Being new to Gainesville, I am learning that this community is a vibrant, diverse, and an intergenerational hotspot for some of the brightest minds in the world. I was drawn to Oak Hammock because it is the only university-affiliated life plan community in Florida truly focused on lifelong learning, health, and well-being. At Oak Hammock, our residents are pursuing life, just not living it. We offer a wide array of options from standalone homes, villas, apartments, and suites in independent living, assisted living, memory care, and skilled nursing environments. We are open to people 55 years of age who may or may not have a University of Florida connection. Last year, we celebrated our 15th anniversary. More than 15 years ago, our founders from Gainesville and the University of Florida realized the importance of a senior living community with a university affiliation. Oak Hammock was among the first in the country to pilot this progressive concept. Since opening its doors in 2004, nearly 900 residents have made Oak Hammock their home, and more than 1,000 people have been cared for in our health pavilion. On a typical non-COVID time, approximately 1,000 people live or work at Oak Hammock every day, making it a very colorful and stimulating community. I invite you to learn more about us, and I encourage you to schedule a tour the next time you're in town. We are following all appropriate CDC guidelines to allow for all to have a safe visit. In the meantime, I want to share a glimpse of what life is like at Oak Hammock. I hope you enjoy the brief video and are inspired to pursue life at a higher level. Thank you for allowing us to be part of this special celebration with you, and go Gators.
Troy, you're back.
And I think we are good.
Hey, Troy, we just want to let you know how much we appreciate your continued support of Grand Guard. Oak Hammock has been very supportive in the past. They're very supportive right now, and we hope you'll continue to be very supportive in the days ahead. So thank you so much. And one more favor, please tell Adele and Bob Graham hello for all of us, would you?
I can do that.
Thank you so much. Another sponsor who helped create an exciting Grand Guard celebration for us is the Legacy Society, which is located within the U.S. Office of Estate and Gift Planning. This team of professionals with tax and legal and financial backgrounds partners with alumni like you and me to identify opportunities for us to support the university. So we welcome all Legacy Society members who are with us here today, and we say thank you for your support of current and future Gators. Please help me welcome Rachel Dorman from the Office of Estate and Gift Planning. Rachel?
Thank you, Dr. Tyree. The Office of Estate and Gift Planning is honored to be a sponsor for the Class of 1970 Grand Guard celebration this year. My name is Rachel Dorman, and I'm a double Gator, and I'll be celebrating my 50th reunion in 2060 and look forward to that. I'm one of the gift planners on our estate and gift planning team, and to celebrate the Class of 1970 and the Legacy Society members on this call, we've put together a video as a team, and we hope you all enjoy the video.
Hi, my name is Paul Casperson, and I'm the Assistant Vice President and Senior Philanthropic Advisor for the University of Florida. I am proud to have been with the Gator Nation for the past 8 years. As a team, we enjoy participating in the Grand Guard celebration. The Office of Estate and Gift Planning and the UF Legacy Society are honored to be the sponsors of the Grand Guard Class of 1970. I always look forward to the Breakfast of Memories to hear stories of the different experiences our alumni had 50 years ago, and I'm looking forward to hearing yours today.
Several of you were able to complete a survey we sent out earlier this year. We learned many things about the Class of 1970 from your responses, such as many of you have children and grandchildren who attended the University of Florida. We also learned that your parents were influential in your decision to come to UF and your views of higher education. Most of those who responded give annually and plan to continue to give. Some have even considered and already have included UF in their estate plans. Thank you for your generous support.
We want to take a moment to recognize the members of the UF Legacy Society from the Class of 1970. The Legacy Society recognizes alumni and friends of UF who have made a planned gift to support the University of Florida. There are 56 members of the Legacy Society from the Class of 1970, and you might recognize some of them by their Legacy Society logo on their virtual Zoom background. Thank you to the Legacy Society members who are here today. Your gifts have influenced UF's rise in the rankings and will help to ensure UF's preeminence for generations to come.
Legacy gifts can be as simple as making UF a beneficiary of a retirement plan, or more complex, incorporating sophisticated tax and estate planning techniques. Certain types of legacy gifts can even provide you or a loved one with an annual income during your lifetime. You can designate your legacy gift to support the program of your choice, or you can even create a named endowment with a legacy gift. As I'm sure you know, the $3 billion Go Greater campaign is currently underway at UF, but you may not know that plan giving accounts for almost 1/3 of the overall campaign goal.
The Office of Estate and Gift Planning staff includes attorneys and financial planning professionals, and we are a resource for anyone who is interested in learning more about ways to support UF through estate planning. We work in collaboration with every college and program at UF, and we can help you to make the most significant impact at UF at the lowest cost to you. I encourage anyone who is interested in joining the UF Legacy Society to contact us to learn more about gift planning opportunities. If you would like to learn more about gift planning, you can also find a link to our website and contact information on the Grand Guard 1970 Celebration webpage. Additionally, if you're seeking advisors such as estate planning attorneys or CPAs, we have established a UF Advisor Network, and you can access the directory of advisors from our website. We currently have over 250 advisors in our network, and while most of our UFAN members are based in Florida, we have members representing 18 states outside of Florida and 2 foreign countries. Thank you for your time today. Enjoy every minute of your reunion weekend, and go Gators!
Thank you so much to Rachel and the Office of Estate and Gift Planning, and in particular to the Legacy Society. We really appreciate your support of the Grand Guard Society, past, present, and hopefully future as well. For our final presentation before we break into the memory portion of the program, we want to highlight a university program that has been a part of the Grand Guard activities this year. It's an extremely important program for the University of Florida, and this year in particular for the University of Florida Alumni Association Board of Directors. Please help me welcome Dr. Leslie Pendleton. Leslie?
Thank you, Dr. Tyree. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Congratulations, class of 1970. We are honored to be a part of today and the entire month. Earlier this month, we hosted an event to showcase the Machen Florida Opportunity Scholars Program, as Dr. Tyree mentioned. We have just a short video to share with you as well. I do want to honor and recognize that we know that many of you were first-generation college students when you were starting at the University of Florida. All folks who are first in their families to go to college, we want to honor and say again a big congratulations to you. The Machen Scholars Program helps provide scholarship and support for students who are first in their families to go to college. It won't be a memory that you all have as we are nearing our 15th anniversary of the program, but it will be a memory that 50 years from now, our Machen scholars will talk fondly about being Gators. So Heather, if you want to play the short video, I appreciate it.
If you had told me in my freshman year of high school, like, you're going to be a doctor someday, it just would not have even registered in my mind. I was about 7 or 8. At that point, it was me and my 3 siblings living with my mother, who was unfortunately addicted to drugs and not caring for us properly. And I was actually the one that called the police to let them know that we had been abandoned. So I was in foster care until my freshman year of high school. College wasn't really something that I had given myself the chance to actually dream about. Back when I applied, no one really knew about the Florida Opportunity Scholarship Program. Getting that letter of not only have you been accepted, but we're gonna help you pay for everything, I'm pretty sure that I ran and grabbed my cat and just cried. The impact that that one letter in the mail has had on my life is just so phenomenal. Having the Machens believe in me, that was a very big turning point in my life for building my confidence and knowing what I'm capable of achieving.
Dr. Lindsay Heidenreich, graduating with a certificate in shelter medicine, being hooded by her mentor, Dr. Bernie Machen.
Sharing that moment with him was very special. Being up on that stage, I think, really solidified. I've worked so hard for this, and I deserve this, and I'm not going to waste it. The foundation of what the University of Florida gave me, building that confidence in myself, has really led the way to where I am now. Being able to provide for myself and giving me the opportunities to be in a position where I can help better my community. I think of every single animal that I've helped save is somewhere at someone's house, giving them so much joy.
Are you new?
How do you even put it into words? Thank you just doesn't seem like it's ever good enough. Just thank you.
So on behalf of the nearly 3,300 MFOS alumni now to date, I just want to say thank you to so many of you who have invested in the program and really believed in Dr. Machen's vision in supporting the Machen Scholars Program. I've been the director now for nearly 15 years, and stories like Lindsay always get to me too, Ashton. I saw your note in the chat. So thank you so much for this opportunity to say thank you to so many of you. If you have interest in supporting the Machen Florida Opportunity Scholars Program, I will put my contact information as well as a link to that video in the chat. So thank you so much, Dr. Tyree and others for giving us some time this morning. And congratulations to all of you. Go Gators.
Thank you, Dr. Pendleton, and all the best in continuing to make this program so vital to the future of the University of Florida. Continuing with that theme of highlighting the exciting things that are happening at our alma mater and reminiscing about our times on campus, I'm really delighted now to, excuse me, kick off the portion of our program where we, meaning you, share our fondest memories. And to get us started with this memory portion, I want to call on Adrienne Garcia, who will share one of her favorite memories from her time as a student at UF. Once she is finished, we'll turn the microphone over to you guys for the next 30 minutes or so to share the best memory of your time on campus. And we ask that you either enter your name, excuse me, in the chat feature at the bottom of your screen or raise your hand. And once Heather Ashley calls on you, we will unmute your microphone to allow you time to share. Maybe you can think about times at Beta Woods. Well, maybe you won't want to think about your times at Beta Woods. Maybe the College Inn and Gold Coast, Gator Growls, the Jambalaya skits, Dean Lester Hell and his singing of the alma mater, Father Michael Gannon, and of course, the live Albert mascot at the foot of Century Tower. Adrienne, take us away.
Thank you, Larry. You seem to bring up Beta Woods several times. I think you have some stories you probably shouldn't share with us. I think when we started talking about football, it made me think about my perspective as a fan at Florida Field. In several years, I remember on those really hot fall days, we would be there, the men dressed in coats and ties, the women our Sunday best. We wear stockings and heels. I don't know how more people did not pass out from the heat. It was a struggle. And then I think back that last season when Steve Spurrier mentioned Carlos Alvarez and John Reeves, it made me think about the super sophomores. At the end of that football season, that November, I remember distinctly, things had become a little bit more casual. I remember that I was wearing slacks and flats, not shorts and not tennis shoes to the game, but we were still more casual. And the fellow that sat next to me at one of the games had no shirt on and a leather vest with long fringe. So I think that was the year, our kind of senior year, 69 to 70, when people kind of loosened up and became maybe a little bit more open to change at the university, certainly at Florida Field. And I think that Bill Carr has a story that he wants to tell. Bill, are you next?
Yes, I am, Adrienne. I appreciate that. I had to get my unmute button off here because I didn't want any surface noise to be disturbing our group. But thank you so much for the opportunity to share from the class of 1968, of which I was a member along with my wife, Janice. We enjoyed very much our time at the University of Florida, and what I'd like to share now is the first instructive moment I had with regard to my status at the University of Florida as a freshman. When I came in there, within the first 2 months, I met an interesting young lady in the orientation session, and when there was a concert to be held in Florida Gym, I thought I'd reach out to her through her sorority. I learned she had joined a sorority, so I went and pursued her, asking her to join me at that concert. And the response I got from the young lady was what I call an instructive moment that told me how much further I had to go in my social advancement at the University of Florida. I never made it very far, I'm first to admit, but it taught me a great deal. And I was given a moment of instruction and reality that told me I had a lot to do in terms of my adjustment to achieving any type of success in that regard. So I just honestly share that with you because I'm sure each person listening right now can think of a similar moment that they experienced. Go Gators.
So Bill, did you go to the concert by yourself?
I did not go. I thought it was a wise thing to do in honor of that young lady that I should miss that particular concert.
Carlos, do you have a story to share?
I actually have two stories. Actually, I was going to have a third one, which is about my parking tickets. I was going to see if I get relief from that I never paid, but Larry, you beat me to it. But anyway, my first story, I recently in one of the events, I saw a picture of the College Inn. And Larry, you mentioned the College Inn. So as a freshman, I lived in Murphy dorm. And like many of us living in Murphy, we used to walk across the street and eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the College Inn. How many of you have been to the College Inn? Look at that. So anyway, you may remember this, but in the spring of each year, the College Inn raffles something. So in the spring of my freshman year, they were raffling a motor scooter, a motorcycle. And what you had to do when you paid at the College Inn, they give you a ticket from the cash register ticket. And in the back of it, you had to put your name and your contact information. So I did that throughout the spring quarter. If you remember, we're in the quarter system. And one night I got back from the studying at the library, and there was a big sign on my door in my dorm room in Fletcher P, and it said, "Carlos, you won the motorcycle." So that was over 50 years ago, and that's the only thing I've ever won in my life. And interesting enough, I was living in Miami, and I had a motorcycle shipped to Miami. I was planning to bring it back to campus when I came back in the fall. But my mom was somehow my mom's doctor learned that I had a motorcycle and told her not to let me ever ride a motorcycle because he had worked in the emergency room and saw all the accidents. So I sold my motorcycle, and with the money that I received, I eventually bought my VW Beetle. My second story is I have better luck than Bill. So I remember a lot of the great musical groups that came to campus. If you remember, the Beach Boys were here, Fifth Dimension, Supremes, Gladys Knight, Four Seasons, Janis Joplin, Temptation. But there was one group and one night, one event that is really memorable to me, and that was after your time. I graduated in 1972, but in 1971, Bill Cosby and the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band came to Florida Field, and I invited this beautiful young lady to come with me, and Bill, she accepted. So this is after my freshman, I think my junior years, I learned a little bit more than you had, and she accepted, and again, that's 49 years ago, and we've been married for happily married for 47 years. So I cannot talk about my memories without remembering the meeting my wife at the University of Florida. So great memory, and it's a pleasure for me to have been involved with the Grand Guard Task Force, and congratulations to all of you on your 50th anniversary. Heather, back to you.
Thank you, Carlos. I believe we have a couple people that have put their name in the chat, starting with Mr. Alan Snart. I unmuted you, so you should be able to share your
there. Can you hear me?
We are good. We can hear you.
Good, because I've got to tell you two things. Number one, I'm a very proud Gator. Number two, I'm a very proud Canadian. And I'm sitting at the moment, I saw some notes on here about people talking about rain. Want to trade for some snow? Just check it. Couple of memories. The first, I came down to Gainesville in midsummer in '68, came back home for Christmas, walked in the door, and in my mind, I said, "Merry Christmas." My mother looked at me and said, "What did you say?" I said, "Merry Christmas." She said, "No, you didn't. You said, 'Merry Christmas, you all.'" So obviously, it came to my heart real quick. There was mention of the Florida State Museum. I was fortunate enough to meet a fellow named Tom Allen, whom some of you may know, from Gainesville. And I'd been a lifeguard and all those kind of things before, but he got me into diving and had a chance to do some some dives, archaeological dives for the Florida State Museum. That was wonderful. Final piece. You mentioned next generations. Our son, when he decided to, sorry, the background, they're fixing our furnace. I'll just tell quick. When we went down there, and unbeknownst to me, he had decided to do his PhD at UF. And when somebody asked him why, he said, well, because my dad went here. So thank you. And this is wonderful. I really appreciate it.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Alan. I believe Sue Moore was next.
I'm here.
Feel free to go ahead and share your memory.
Okay. First of all, good morning from Nashville, Tennessee, where I'm proud to be a member of the Music City Gator Club. And I'm so glad to see so many Gator license tags around Nashville. It's unbelievable. So my one memory is I transferred to UF as a junior in January of '68 after going to junior college. And I was lucky enough to be assigned a room in the Tower. And I don't know if you all remember that the Tower was part of the Towers, which would become Beatty Towers. But at the time, the East Tower was the only one that had any students, and they were all female. And I remember that we had to holler, man on the floor, if our dad came up to help us with luggage or whatever. No male students were allowed on the floor, but all the girls, the women, would sit on the floors with curlers in their hair. And we had a lot of elementary ed majors on that floor for some reason, and just hang out. And I remember when they started allowing male students to come up, we were all a little disappointed because we knew we couldn't sit out there with our hair in rollers and be super comfortable. The next year, the other tower opened, and I think the girls moved over there. The boys moved into the one that was older. A little bit of discrimination there, I guess. And eventually they were, I believe, co-ed. But we loved our time of being a bunch of girls hanging out, doing our thing, getting ready for class, and not having to worry about what we looked like. So that was a fun memory. That plus all the gizzards you could eat at Kentucky Fried Chicken for 99 cents.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Sue. We now have Dan Solis that would like to share his memories.
Yes. Hello, that's Dan Squillis, S-Q-U Squillis. But anyway, I was a freshman in 1966. And I very much remember my first Florida football game. I believe it was Houston at the time. We won. And the other amazing part about that, I think it was that whole time period was the debut of that amazing elixir that helped the Gators for years, Gatorade.
Yes.
Came out about that time frame, if you all remember correctly. But the thing that was most remarkable to me, I was a member of the University of Florida Symphony Orchestra at that time, what we always referred to as a Fight Gator Philharmonic. And as I was a horn player there, and I really, really enjoyed in particular the choral music we played, the music we played with a chorus several times, and most stimulating type of music. And it was the ones in particular, Handel's Messiah we did Honegger's King David. We also did Full Length's Gloria, just all indelible performances in my mind. That's it.
Great. That's great. I love the Fightin' Gator Philharmonic. That's cute. That's really cute. Tom Kelly, I believe you are up next.
Thanks. It was in '68, and our brand new university president, Stephen O'Connell, was touring around the campus with our head coach, Ray Graves. And they were, for some reason, picked Sled A over in Murphy area. And fortunately, one of my roommates or dorm mates raced out to intercept my future wife and I as we were returning from the Gold Coast or the Rathskeller, I'm not sure which one. But he saved us from being busted for having girls in the dorm, but from the president and the head coach. That would have been mortifying at best for all of us. So we still laugh at that 52 years later.
Thank you so much for sharing, Tom. We now have Dan Callahan.
Go Gators. I think it was Carlos said he lived in Fletcher P. Well, I guess I was a neighbor. I lived in Fletcher N, at least in 68, 69. But going across University to where we ate, I guess some of you said you ate at the CI. I preferred the Gold Coast. But upstairs above the Gold Coast was a place called Robbie's. I don't know if any of you went to Robbie's, but my friends and I used to say, and back then when you ordered a Coke or Pepsi or whatever, they gave it to you in a bottle. And you didn't have fountain drinks, they had bottles. And we always said about Robbie's, it was the only place that you could get grease in your Coke. That was a really greasy, and if you had never eaten at Robbie's and you ate there, it tore up your stomach if you weren't a regular at Robbie's. But it was affordable. The other thing, I remember some of my friends from Fletcher Inn, one foot back then you could carry anything into the game. They didn't seem to really care. And we made up a whole bunch of daiquiris and carried them in thermoses. And they just let us on in, and we had a good time with our daiquiris, drinking them in the stadium. And that was before they checked what you carried in. And one other thing, I guess one of the highlights, I was one of the ones who lined up early, and I got to see Pistol Pete play. A highlight of my life in Florida. Sorry about that. But I think the fans in Florida cheered more for Pistol Pete wanting him to score 50 than if they cared if Florida won or not. Of course, we had Neil Walk and Andy Owen, so we did win. But it was wonderful watching Pistol Pete. Go Gators.
Thank you so much, Dan. And by all of the head nods, I think everybody else agreed with you on the Pistol Pete comment for sure. So thank you very much for sharing that. I believe Mike Varner mentioned he would like to make some comments. You should be unmuted now, Michael. Looks like we're having some technical difficulties with Michael. We'll come back to you. I think Arnie was raising his hand.
Yes, good morning to all good friends. When I came to the University of Florida in 1958, I was a transfer student from the University of Los Andes in Venezuela, and my English was not very good at that time. So I had this English. And a friend of mine took us to a restaurant. It's on the 13th Street, one of these old restaurants. I remember the name. So when we came in, the lady, she's a real Southern accent. She said, "Hey, Mayor, would you like some honey?" I said, "No, I don't want honey. I want a glass of milk." So she said, "What is that?" So the friend of mine said, "Ask for a glass of milk, something like this." And then she said, "Oh, why didn't you tell me that before?" So it's a matter of trying to understand the Southern accent. And that I still remember that from my time in 1958. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Arnie. I think we may have Mike Varner is back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we're good.
Good. In 1969, Walter Cook and I were doing a survey lab north of Museum Road and east of what was at that time Stadium Road. And it was in the middle of August and it was hot, so very hot. So at the end of our lab that day, there was a little pond or lake, let's call it a pond, across the street at the dormitory. So we decided to cool off. We went over there and we jumped in that little pool or that little pond, swimming around, got cool. But all of a sudden I looked up and there was a gator swimming toward Walter. And I yelled at him and we both got out there, but that was a very memorable experience.
And still very much probably a real one to see gators on campus still. So that's possible. I'm not sure we'd swim in it, but maybe. You never know. We should have Ron Buneau, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Or Ron Bayno.
Bayno.
Just a couple of brief Hume Hall stories. I noticed somebody in the chat mentioned they called it Fume Hall. Fume Hall, well, it's okay, we call it Hume Hall. Back in those days, as I recall, it was mostly freshmen and sophomores. Freshmen because they couldn't have any other place to go, and sophomores because they got stuck in there and couldn't get out in time. But it was an interesting experience. Our room was in the corner room, and we noticed that if we opened up our windows, that we could take these little squares of toilet paper, get them all wet, and toss them into the room next door. And eventually, if you kept on putting them in, the other guys' rooms were all filled with these things, and they couldn't see out the window at all. Kind of an interesting thing. The second illustration is that back in those days, they used to have a telephone in the hallway. And of course, telephones in the hallway in a guy's dorm, nobody ever wants to answer the phone. Well, one time, I remember the phone rang, and it rang and rang, and then somebody eventually came out and said, I'll answer the telephone. And then someone else said, no, I'll answer the phone. And the third person came out and said, no, let me answer the phone. Well, by the time after a couple of minutes and the phone kept on ringing, then we had about 15 guys are out there, even when they said, I'll answer the phone. No, I will. No, I'll go answer the phone. Well, finally, one guy did pick up the telephone, and guess who was there? Well, I won't tell you who was there because we don't know who was there, because as soon as he picked up the phone, the other person hung up the line. So we'll never know who was calling that telephone number at that time. But that was an interesting experience to have a telephone in the hallway.
And to have telephones now just easily accessible without cords, it's amazing what's happened in 50 years, that's for sure. I believe we have Mary Ettinger, and followed by Alan again.
Hi, I'm Mary, and when I came to UF, I had already gone to University of Wisconsin and worked a little bit, but I wanted to be a nurse, and I could do it here at Gainesville because I have my residency, and so I came in. When I look back on it, I think how naive I was in so many ways, even then. But this memory that I have, and that it comes back to me every once in a while, was I had a class across from the stadium somewhere, and I walked out, and and here comes a huge parade of people with a big banner and everything coming along, and it was a bunch of people from I don't know what they were called back then, but lesbian, gays, and all that, and I had no idea what a homosexual even was, really. It just, there weren't any that I knew anything of, and so it was just almost a life-changing thing for me to see this and to learn about how many people are like that and the things they have been going through. I looked into it some more, and just at UF, University of Florida, I had many, sort of almost life-changing aha moments, and that was one of them. But it was so great to be here, and I learned so many things.
That's great. Thank you, Mary, for sharing. And you're right, that was a pivotal time for the LGBTQ community. So kudos to you for also learning a little bit more about what that experience looks like for them. We should have Alan was up next. Let's see. Oh, he looks like he's on the phone. I think Danny Ponce wanted to, so let me find Danny. There you go, perfect.
There were a couple of mentions of Gatorade, and there were four of us, grad students living in a house, obviously, but also you folks in Gainesville have Hurricane Eva that was giving you some grief, I think. Anyway, Hurricane Gladys came through in '68, and the four of us, brilliant people that we were, decided that we would create a hurricane punch which was Gatorade and lab alcohol. It worked like a charm, and woke up the next morning, and in the backyard was a very large metal bed spring. And again, being brilliant students that we were, decided that we would drag it up onto the roof, attach it to our TV antenna to get better reception. And it worked, except every time we wanted to change it to, a game in Alabama or Seattle or wherever, somebody had to get up on the roof, and the rest of us are sitting down in the living room saying, no, a little bit, more, no, whoa, back. And when we all moved out, that spring was still on the roof. So, hey, thank God for cable.
That's great, Alan. That's great. I think bad decisions still happen 50 years later at college. So I'm sure there's many stories like that happening nowadays, especially with the pandemic. Danny Ponce, you're next.
Ashley, thank you. And thank you for fellow class members of the 70. It's been great to participate with all of you, but I started thinking about in 1966 when Coach Spurrier was a senior, and most of us were freshmen, that women were wearing suits and men were giving them corsages to go to football games. And we would wear coats and ties and go out to Florida Field at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and and women wearing stockings and heels, and how we survived all that. And one cute story was I had one suit, and I was sitting in my then fraternity, Delta Tau Delta's block. Somehow or another, my jacket came off. Somehow or another, my jacket landed on the bottom of the seats at Florida Field in the student section. And later that night, I realized that I did not have my jacket. My parents would probably kill me if I didn't have it, because it was, so I got back to the stadium, found my jacket, and it was just a mess. And sent it to a dry cleaner, which I'd never done before in my life. And it came back, and it was a little smaller than I was at that point. So that was one cute story. But the main thing that I want to say is that the University of Florida has been a big part of my family since 1941. And at the Ponce, which is my father's last name, Gonzalez, which is my mother's maiden name, we were probably some of the original Miami Hispanics that went to University of Florida. Parents were born and raised in Key West. But to this date, we have 53 members of our family who have attended the University of Florida since 1941. We have 39 graduates, 48 degrees, and 14 members obviously attended but did not graduate. We are in our 4th generation of Gators, 79 years strong. And we have a whole list of accomplishments of a lot of us there. As Adrian was, I was a president of the Alumni Association, that was Larry. And, it's been a big, huge monster part of our lives. And I've, over the years, have been very able to give the university money, participation as a trustee of the university a few years ago, and brings back a lot of great memories. So I just only hope for next year, 71, because this is what Ashley told me, that we'll be able to go to the 71s reunion, crash it, as we would say in the old days, and participate, because I'd love to see all of you and everybody. We're still alive and healthy and surviving the coronavirus. So God bless you all, and go Gators.
Go Gators. Thank you so much, Danny. That was fantastic. And the lineage and the history speaks to, I think, the love that people have for the orange and blue, and that obviously runs many generations in your family. So thank you for your support of the university as well. We have Margot Pope up next.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I'm Margot Pope. I'm from St. Augustine, Florida. I have 2 memories to share. They're combined, actually. I spent 3 years working for the Florida Alligator. My first experience was my freshman year, and I was the sports editor, Bob Menaker, asked a reporter who lived in my dorm if she knew anyone who could cover tennis. So she knew I had been a reporter in high school, and her name was Jane Solomon, and she gave me Bob's name. And I'm sure he was thinking a guy, and I show up, and I guess convinced him I knew how to play tennis and had covered high school sports in high school. And so I covered the UF tennis team, Steve Gardner, Bill Belote, Army Neely, Jamie Presley, for that spring. And the Alligator at the time was in the old basement of the old Florida Union, now Dower Hall. And of course, the windows were, you know, at ground level, and they weren't much of a window. But I had a great experience. And then the last 2 years I worked for the Alligator, we were in the Rights Union, the new Rights Union rather, 3rd floor. And somehow I got tagged with the police beat. And that turned into police stories, fire department stories. I wrote about the need for fire department on campus after the state revealed over 400 deficiencies from dorms to classrooms to office buildings. It was a scary time thinking about it. But the best part of all of this was I met my lifelong friend, Helen Huntley, in the Alligator office in the Rights Union, the new Rights Union. And we have shared more than 50 years of personal and professional memories. And for that, I am really indebted to UF and the Alligator and the College of Journalism. I wouldn't have been on the Alligator if I hadn't known to find it through the College of Journalism. So thank you for letting me remember all that.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us. I think there's been so many stories over the Grand Guards that I've been able to attend in the past years of lifelong friendships that have started. We've obviously heard a lot about relationships that started at the university. When it speaks so much to your personal life outside of just the education you receive, there's a special tie that happens at the university. So we are very grateful that you had that opportunity to have those changes that have impacted your life since then. Thank you very much for sharing, Margot. We have Joan Kaiser.
Yeah, Joan Bradbury Kaiser. So just since you had mentioned both Dean Hale and Michael Gannon, I did know both of them and had just two quick things about each of them. One is, since nobody else has, so I will just bring those up. One is that in an earlier session when they were doing memories, someone talked about, I still think of him as Father Gannon because he was the priest of my church for many years growing up, since I was a Gainesville resident. And then he left the priesthood and became a professor. But he was wonderful at both. And he wrote a lot of books. And one of them is, and in that session, they said he could read. His voice was so wonderful that he could have read a phone book, and it was just mesmerizing. One of the books he did, University of Florida Press, was Michael Gannon's History of Florida in 40 Minutes. And there's a CD with it. So you can still, and although we lost him just a couple of years ago, you can still get his voice and listen to a speech he made about the history of Florida over and over. And I imagine this is still available. I hope so. If not, it's probably available somehow, but it's University of Florida Press, and it's a great little book and talk. And for Dean Hale, my memory of him, although I had different things, is that he every year would read the Christmas Carol at the auditorium. I don't know if other people were at that, sponsored by Sigma Nu Fraternity. My father, who was on the faculty, was their faculty advisor. And so although they were not known as the most conservative of the fraternities, and my father would get called out in the middle of the night, sometimes for the bonfire they start in the middle of the street or some other thing, but that's another story. But they looked very angelic as we went all dressed up to listen to Dean Hale read with amazing effects and voices, because he was the director of the speech and oratory and so forth department. And it was a very special evening, and I hope some others got to experience that. That's all. Thanks.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Joan, as well. Those were some memories that I think, like you had mentioned, heard in some other sessions as well that we've had. Does anybody else have other memories that they would like to share at this time? I believe Joseph has his hand up, so I will unmute him.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. I was fortunate to be one of 12 professionals that were invited into the MBA program back in '68 in conjunction with the School of Allied Health Professions to become a hospital administrator. So we've kept in contact, the 12 of us that came into that program, and there are 8 of us still living. So we were very privileged to be a part of the J. Hillis Miller Health Center, and the director of the hospital went on to become our leader in the American College of Healthcare Administrators, Stu Westbury, and John Champion was a professor in finance in the School of Business. So we had some really good experiences. Most of us were married, had families, and it was really neat to be together with those folks. I'm a 3rd generation Gator. I started the Gator tradition, and our daughter and son-in-law graduated in the early 90s. She with the master's in math. And I have one grandson that just graduated in May with a bachelor's degree in biology. I have a granddaughter that's studying virtually there now as a sophomore in biology. So we're a Gator family, have a lot of fond memories over the years. I served as a mentor in the School of Business back in the early 90s and have had a lot of great experiences with all of the ones in the Foundation and the Alumni Association. So thank you, Heather, for allowing me to speak and share my alumni member. You'll notice my background is the only one that's backwards. I was told we were going to look backwards today. So I wanted you to all look backwards at my background for the 50th years. I do have my cup and it is forward, or no, it's backward too. By golly. Thank you.
Well, and you're welcome. And just so you know, it looks backwards to you, but it's actually correct for everybody else.
Wonderful.
So you are all in line with everybody else and your beautiful mug.
Okay, thanks a lot. Appreciate that. Good to be with all of you. I look forward to meeting you in person next fall for the Grand Guard reception.
Yes, we are very much looking forward to being able to host everybody in person, and you guys will be the one class that's actually had 2 people at the same time. So you will hopefully have a whole host of people that you are able to meet, both from that graduated with you, but then also anybody that you knew that may have been a year behind you. So looking forward to seeing you in person next year. I believe we were going to Arnie next.
Of my remembrance. When I did my master's degree in 1971, and I went back to Venezuela, and I became professor at the University of in Valencia, University of Carabobo. And we established a sort of a relationship with the university in Venezuela and the University of Florida, and especially trying to get working a graduate program. The University of Florida gave us all the support for this graduate program. And we had it working after we had some professors from the University of Florida, Dr. Wayne Chen, for example, he was Dean of Engineering, Dr. Eugene Chenet, Dr. Brotherson, and they all came to Venezuela to teach the courses of graduate works. And we had the agreement with the University of Florida that all titles, all these master's degrees and PhD degrees from our university and from the University of Florida are recognized among us. We also implemented with the IPM cards, the registration of the students, the same we used to have at the University of Florida. We took this program also back to Venezuela, and it worked fine for our School of Electrical Engineering. We also had since I was also at the periodismo, como es,
Journalism.
at the journalism. I was quite active with the station, television station. So we implemented their cultural radio station in Venezuela, also the university television station, the same as a copy of the University of Florida. And they helped us very, very much in this. So we are very proud. Also the amateur radio station, which was W4 UFT, something like this. And we also copied this with YV4 UC, Yankee Victor 4, University of Carabobo. That's Yankee Victor is Venezuela call letters. So we brought a lot of the ideas and experiences from the University of Florida to our university. And it worked perfectly, wonderful. So thank you very, very much for the University of Florida for the support they gave us for our graduate school.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And it sounds like we owe a debt of gratitude to you and your fellow members for helping UF start its journey in becoming global. So thank you very much for sharing that, and thank you for your service as well. Dan Callahan, you are up next.
Just recently, one of you mentioned about getting drunk on Gatorade and grain alcohol. That just reminded me that one evening I had the opportunity to meet Dr. Cade. It was at Lum's down on Southwest 13th. A bunch of us were going to Lum's to get hot dogs, and he was there, and we talked to him for a while. And of course, as college kids would ask, we asked him, what's the quickest way to get drunk? And Dr. Cade, without pausing, said, Gatorade and gin. So I never tried Gatorade and gin, but that was his suggestion. And Bill Carr, I've got a question for you, if I may. My brother, my older brother, was a freshman at Florida, played for Ray Graves from 60 through about 65. He was on that team that went to Tuscaloosa and beat the Bear. His name was Melton Callahan. By any chance, do you remember him? He didn't play very much, but he was on the teams there in the early 60s.
Yes, I remember him. As you said, he was on the practice squad. Very fine person.
Yeah, he now lives in St. Simons.
Very well, very well. Well, he was a contributing member, although he didn't get a lot of playing time. He did add his special quality as a personality, had a great sense of humor.
Yeah, well, just wondered if you remembered him. It's a lot of people and a lot of time ago.
Very fine person. And that's what it takes to make a team, is all the personalities as well as the skills that go into it.
Yep. Well, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for mentioning that. Give him my regards, please.
I will.
It's amazing that you can remember all those years back, Bill. I can't remember what I did yesterday half the time. So kudos to you for being able to remember someone like that. We have Daniel, he was up next.
Yes, hello. Just quickly, a quick memory from Murphy Hall that I lived in is that there's a sign over the entrance we used to go through a lot of it. It was labeled trunk delivery, which spoke volumes as to the age of the place even back then. The other thing I want to do is thank you guys so much for hosting this virtual event, because an unexpected delight is I was able to reconnect with a student I hadn't had contact with in decades, Richard King. So again, thank you all so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here. And that was kind of the impetus of why we decided to go ahead. A lot of other universities just kind of canceled their reunions for this year and are postponing it to next year. And while we will obviously be doing that for the in-person, we at least wanted to provide virtual opportunities for you to be able to see each other, hear a little bit about the university. So we're happy that you, as well as everybody else that's here today, and hopefully you've been able to have some laughter, share some memories, find out a little bit more about what's happened at the university. And you leave this session just a little bit even more proud to be a Florida Gator. So this time I'm actually going to turn it back over to Larry to kind of take us out on one more sweet surprise that we may have for you guys. We actually, I believe we have a special surprise from our College of the Arts.
Heather,
Yes, sir.
you just unmuted me, so I'm back with you now. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
What great sharing. As I listened to you, I made some notes. Danny Ponce, icon for all my life. He's so much older than I am. The gentleman that talked about Pistol Pete, I was there. And maybe you'll remember Coach Norm Sloan's wife, Joan, singing the national anthem at every one of our home basketball games. Several people referred to Murphy. You might remember at that time, we had no air conditioning in Murphy. How did we do it? I don't know. Nobody mentioned the infirmary, the student infirmary, where I had the privilege of working. I thought it would be a great way to meet the girls. It didn't work out so well for me either, Bill Carr. I remember homecoming with the parade and the smoker and the Florida Bouquet banquet and Gator Growl and the spectacular fireworks and the Jambalaya skits the next morning, and of course the football game. Back to Murphy, I remember any number of times looking out on the old handball courts and seeing somebody's furniture. I don't know how it got there, but it certainly wasn't unusual to see pranks performed in that way. And then the dangerous and stupid fires in the trash chutes of the dorm. I don't know why people did that, but that was another memory that came to mind. I just want to thank you for sharing wonderful memories, and certainly I look forward to hearing more during future Grand Guard activities. We appreciate so much your willingness to share. We hope that you have enjoyed not only today's session, but other Grand Guard activities that we have had on our agenda for over the last couple of months. We certainly look forward to, hopefully, God willing, being able to celebrate you and the class of 1971 in person during a joint reunion in Gainesville about this time, maybe next year. So thank you for joining us today, for sharing these wonderful memories and reminding us it's always great to be a Florida Gator. And I would certainly be remiss if I did not, on behalf of the Grand Guards Task Force, thank Heather Ashley and her UFAA staff colleagues for making all this happen. They have been just absolutely incredible. So Heather, you and your colleagues, thanks so much. To close out our program today, we have one final surprise and one trip down memory lane. We have 4 students from the UF College of the Arts who will lead us today in singing "We Are the Boys." The words will be displayed on your screen, and we ask you to not only follow along, but sing along. College of the Arts students, please take us away.
We are the boys from old Florida, FLORIDA, where girls are the fairest, the boys are the squarest of any old state down our way. Hey! We are all strong for old Florida, down where the old Gators play.
Go Gators!
In all kinds of weather, we all stay together. For FLORIDA, go Gators!
Oh.
Hey, thanks, fellows. That was terrific.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having us.
To everybody, thank you again for joining us. We'd ask that you stay safe, go Gators, and beat Arkansas.
Go Gators.